The grand fashion competition was the highlight of the season, drawing the most talented models from around the world. It was more than just a show. It was an opportunity for one model to win a life-changing contract with a top fashion house. The venue buzzed with excitement as cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and designers observed with sharp eyes. Every model in the competition had worked tirelessly for this moment, hoping to impress the industry's most powerful figures. Among the crowd stood Celeste, a household name in the fashion world. With her sharp cheekbones, flawless skin, and commanding presence, she had graced the covers of countless magazines. But behind her beauty lay a cold arrogance. She carried herself as if she was untouchable, believing no one could rival her. To Celeste, this competition was merely another stepping stone, another chance to prove her dominance. Then Emma entered. Unlike the others, she wore no designer clothes, no flashy jewelry, and no heavy makeup. Her simple dress and quiet demeanor made her stand out, not in a glamorous way, but in a way that made people question why she was there. The other models exchanged amused glances. Who was this plain girl who dared to step into their world? The backstage area buzzed with energy as models adjusted their dresses, makeup artists rushed around, and photographers captured every moment. The air smelled of expensive perfume and hairspray, a space filled with luxury and confidence. Celeste lounged on a velvet chair, surrounded by a group of equally glamorous models. They laughed in hushed tones, tossing their hair and whispering about the competition, but when their eyes landed on Emma, their whispers turned into open mockery. Is she lost? One of them giggled, eyeing Emma's simple outfit. Maybe she's an intern, another suggested with a smirk. Celeste tilted her head, examining Emma with amusement. She slowly stood, sauntering over with effortless grace. With a sly smile, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Someone must have signed up the wrong person." Laughter rippled through the group as Emma stood quietly, her expression unreadable. Unlike the other models, she wore no designer labels, no towering heels, just quiet confidence that seemed out of place in a world built on appearance. One of the assistants hesitated, unsure whether to intervene, but Emma gave a small nod as if to say she was fine. She didn't shrink away or respond to the insults. Instead, she met Celeste's gaze with a calmness that was almost unsettling. Celeste narrowed her eyes. She had expected embarrassment, maybe even tears, but the plain girl didn't flinch. There was something in her stare, something steady, something unshaken, and for a brief moment, Celeste felt the smallest flicker of unease, but she quickly dismissed it. After all, in her mind, this girl would be gone soon enough. As the competition officially began, a hush fell over the room. The event organizers took the stage, their expressions serious. One of the judges, a well-known industry veteran, held the microphone and addressed the contestants. This competition is not just about experience or fame, it is about talent, presence, and the ability to captivate. Every contestant here, regardless of background, will be given a fair chance to prove themselves. The models exchanged glances, some nodding in approval, others unimpressed. Celeste barely paid attention, already confident in her inevitable victory, but then something unexpected happened. Emma, the quiet girl who had been mocked just moments before, stepped forward. The crowd turned their attention to her as she spoke in a clear, steady voice. "I was invited to compete by Marc Laurent." A stunned silence filled the room. The name carried weight. Marc Laurent was one of the most sought-after designers in the industry, known for discovering raw, untapped talent. The whispering began instantly. Did she just say Marc Laurent? There's no way, he only works with the best. Celeste's confident smirk faltered for the first time, her fingers clenched into fists. Marc Laurent was a legend, someone even she had struggled to impress. How could this girl, plain, ordinary Emma, have caught his attention? That must be a mistake, Celeste snapped, unable to hide her irritation. Why would someone like him choose someone like her? Emma didn't respond to the hostility. She simply stood there, composed, while the others whispered and laughed behind her back. But Celeste's laughter was forced now. A nagging feeling crept into her mind, one she couldn't ignore. For the first time, she felt something she never expected to feel toward this girl. Doubt. The day of the runway had finally arrived. The energy backstage was electric. Models rushed to final fittings, makeup artists dusted finishing touches, and designers adjusted their creations. Celeste stood in front of a mirror, her reflection radiating confidence. She had been through this 100 times before. With her striking gown, flawless makeup, and practiced walk, she knew she would steal the show. This was her stage. No one, especially that girl, could take the spotlight from her. Meanwhile, Emma sat quietly in a chair, watching the chaos around her. She had been given a simple black robe to wear before her transformation, and she waited as a team of stylists and designers gathered around her. Unlike the other models, she wasn't demanding or anxious, she simply listened. One of the senior stylists tilted his head, studying her face. Your beauty doesn't need to be forced. We'll bring out what's already there. With expert hands, they worked their magic. Light, natural makeup highlighted her soft features. Her hair was styled effortlessly, flowing like silk. And then came the gown, a breathtaking custom-made piece by Marc Laurent himself. It shimmered under the lights, sculpted to perfection. When Emma finally looked at herself in the mirror, even she was momentarily stunned. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her, not because she looked different, but because for the first time, she looked like she belonged. Moments later, the show began. Celeste walked onto the runway first, moving with perfect precision. The audience clapped, as they always did. She was beautiful, poised, untouchable. But then Emma stepped onto the runway. The room went silent. She walked with an effortless grace, her presence commanding yet unforced. There was something about her, a quiet confidence, a natural elegance that couldn't be taught. The dress shimmered with each step, and as she moved, it became clear she wasn't just another contestant, she was the moment. Celeste, watching from behind the curtain, felt her stomach twist. She had expected Emma to fail. Instead, the girl she had mocked had just outshined her in front of everyone, and for the first time in her career, Celeste felt something foreign and terrifying. She felt invisible. For a moment there was nothing but silence, the kind of silence that held weight, that carried shock and disbelief. Then a wave of murmurs rippled through the audience. Who is she? She moves like she was born for this. That dress, Marc Laurent designed it just for her. Emma didn't flinch under the intensity of the stares. She didn't need to force confidence. It radiated from her naturally. Every step was precise, effortless, as if the runway belonged to her. The lights caught the shimmer of her gown, but it wasn't just the dress people were mesmerized by, it was her. Celeste, standing behind the curtain, gripped the fabric so tightly that her knuckles turned white. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Emma was supposed to look awkward, out of place, forgettable, but instead, she was the moment. Celeste's breath caught as she noticed something even worse. The judges, people who had once fawned over her, were leaning forward, eyes locked onto Emma. Even the fashion critics, the ones notorious for being impossible to impress, were nodding in approval, scribbling in their notebooks. And then the media frenzy began. Cameras flashed wildly as reporters whispered excitedly to each other. They weren't just watching a new model walk down the runway, they were watching the rise of something bigger. Emma reached the end of the runway, pausing just long enough to let the audience take her in. There was no smugness, no arrogance, just quiet assurance. She turned with ease, making her way back, every movement perfectly controlled. The applause started softly, but grew louder. People were no longer whispering, they were clapping, some even standing. Celeste's stomach churned. She had always been the showstopper, the one who turned heads, but now she was nothing more than an afterthought. And Emma, she wasn't just winning the crowd, she was becoming unstoppable. The air in the room was thick with anticipation. Models lined up backstage, their expressions tense as they waited for the results. Celeste stood at the front, her posture perfect, her chin lifted high. She had convinced herself that despite Emma's performance, she would still win. After all, she was Celeste, the industry's darling, the obvious choice. A hush fell over the room as the head judge stepped forward, holding the results. The pause before the announcement stretched unbearably long. Then, with a steady voice, he declared, "The winner of this year's competition, the face of the future, is Emma." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Celeste's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her entire world tilted. The applause was deafening. People rushed toward Emma, flashing cameras capturing every moment. Designers, critics, and media personalities, who had once circled Celeste like moths to a flame, were now focused on her. Then a familiar voice spoke from the judges' panel. Marc Laurent stood, his expression proud. "I chose Emma not because of how she looks, but because of what she brings. She doesn't rely on perfection, she has presence, spirit, something that cannot be taught." Celeste's stomach twisted. She had spent years perfecting her image, believing beauty was all that mattered, but Emma had walked onto the stage with something far more powerful, an undeniable essence. As Emma stepped forward to accept her award, Celeste took a step back, unnoticed, no flashing cameras, no whispered admiration, no gasps of awe. For the first time in her life, Celeste faded into the background, and Emma, she wasn't just the winner, she was the future. Celeste sat alone in the dressing room, the distant sound of celebration echoing through the hallways. The crown she had always believed was hers now belonged to someone else. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, the same flawless features, the same perfect makeup, yet for the first time they felt empty. She had spent years believing that beauty was power, that confidence came from admiration, but Emma had shown something different. Grace without arrogance, strength without cruelty. She hadn't needed to belittle anyone or seek revenge. She had simply been herself, and that had been enough. A quiet knock at the door pulled Celeste from her thoughts. When she looked up, Emma stood there, still in her winning gown, still radiant, but not smug. For a moment Celeste hesitated, then swallowing her pride, she rose to her feet. "Congratulations," she said, her voice softer than it had ever been. Emma simply nodded, offering a small, genuine smile, before turning to leave. As she walked away, there was no triumph in her steps, only quiet confidence, the same kind she had carried from the very beginning. And in that moment, Celeste realized Emma wasn't just a model, she was an inspiration. What a powerful lesson this story teaches us. Sometimes true beauty isn't about looks, expensive clothes, or fame. It's about confidence, kindness, and staying true to yourself. Emma proved that real strength comes from within, and no amount of mockery or doubt could shake her. Meanwhile, Celeste learned that arrogance can blind us to what truly matters. What do you think? Have you ever faced a situation where someone underestimated you, only for you to prove them wrong? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your friends. And if you want more inspiring and emotional stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Thank you for watching, and remember, true confidence comes from within.